In December of 1928, a baby boy named Jack Tramiel was born to a Jewish family in Lodz, Poland. Jack had a rough youth. He grew up in a country that was soon to be ravaged by war and destruction. In September of 1939, Germany invaded Poland, and the Tramiel family was forced into the Lodz ghetto. Jack and his family endured the horrors of the ghetto and the Auschwitz concentration camp, where his father was killed. After the war, Jack and his brother moved to the United States and changed their name to Tramiel. Jack, now calling himself Jack Tramiel, served in the U.S. Army for a brief period, then worked as a taxi driver and later a typewriter repairman. In 1958, Tramiel founded the company Commodore Portable Typewriter. The company was successful, and in 1962, Tramiel changed the name to Commodore Business Machines. The company focused on adding calculators and other electronic devices to its product line. Tramiel's business continued to grow, and in the late 1970s, he became interested in the emerging home computer market. Under Tramiel's leadership, Commodore released the popular PET computer, which was used in schools and businesses. And in 1982, the legendary Commodore 64 saw the light of day, which is still the best-selling single computer line of all time. Jack Tramiel left Commodore in early 1984 to buy the home computer and video game console division of Atari from Warner Communications. Jack was a fierce businessman and not interested in games. Business as war was his motto. He believed that Atari's technology and brand recognition could help him create a new line of low-cost home computers to compete with other companies in the industry. Tramiel also saw an opportunity to use Atari's established distribution channels to sell his new products, which would help him get a foothold in the highly competitive consumer electronics market.
We need to build a computer for the masses, not the classes.
This was his mantra, and in less than 6 months, in January 1985, the Atari ST was presented at the Winter Consumer Electronics Show, CES, in Las Vegas, Nevada. Tramiel was known for his cost-cutting measures. When the ST was released, it was priced at $799 for the base model, which included 512 kilobytes of RAM, an external disk drive, and a monochrome monitor. This was significantly cheaper than many other personal computers on the market at the time, such as the Apple Macintosh and IBM PC. Atari's new tagline became, "The power without the price." The ST was pretty popular, and by the end of 1986, over 500,000 units were sold globally, especially in Europe. In the USA, however, to Jack's dismay, the computer was not taken seriously, and he wanted to do something about that. In the early 1980s, the personal computer industry in the USA was dominated by a single company, IBM. Their IBM PC was first released on August 12, 1981. It was a game changer. It had a powerful processor, lots of memory, and an open architecture that allowed for third-party hardware and software. But it was also very expensive, and not everyone could afford it. This trend was about to be changed by 3 former Texas Instruments employees, Rod Cannon, Jim Harris, and Bill Murtaugh, who founded Compaq Computer Corporation on February 14, 1982. The company was based in Houston, Texas, and its name was derived from compatibility and quality. Compaq was one of the first companies to successfully clone the IBM personal computer, and by 1983, the legendary Compaq Portable was released. Because of the success of Compaq, other companies followed in its footsteps. They wanted to have a piece of the PC pie. By 1985, the likes of Tandy, NEC, Olivetti, and lots of Asian brands started to release their own cheaper IBM clones. Employees who used an expensive IBM machine at work could now actually afford a computer with the same capabilities for private use. These DOS machines started to invade the homes of middle-class Americans at such a rate that the Christmas season of 1986 was dubbed the MS-DOS holiday. This surge in sales was a significant moment in the history of personal computing, as it marked the rise of the IBM-compatible PC as the dominant platform in the market. MS-DOS became the de facto standard operating system for these computers. Jack saw this as an opportunity. Already by 1986, rumors of a groundbreaking Atari PC clone started to slowly surface. When Jack released the ST in 1985, Atari had some 500 dealers. By the end of 1986, they signed up over 1,150. These retailers were instrumental in pushing the ST, certainly in the United States. But in 1987, this started to change. That year, Atari decided to kill the small dealer network and give the channel to large resellers. Atari thought it could provide better distribution in a more cost-effective way. Because of this, Atari was losing steam in its home of North America.
We are here to serve each other, and especially the customer. If we will do this, we will win.
This, combined with a complete invasion of more serious DOS-based personal computers for the home market, and Jack knew he had to take action. Atari released their Mega ST in April of 1987. Previously announced as the ST1 a year prior at Comdex, this flagship ST was aimed at the business user. With more RAM, a blitter chip to increase screen computations, an external expansion slot, and an updated OS. The new chassis, again designed by Ira Valinsky, set it apart from the all-in-one design of the regular ST. It not only looked good, but allowed for future attachments such as the Megafile storage system to stack on top of the main CPU. The detached keyboard emulated the PC design that was becoming a new standard in homes. The Mega range was also built with the objective to drive Atari's desktop publishing system. But Jack also wanted to enjoy the upsurge of sales in the IBM-compatible market and break into this already crowded market. In January of 1987, the Atari PC was announced at CES, exactly 2 years after unveiling the Atari ST. Tramiel opened the show with the catchphrase,
"Today, we declare war to the computer industry."
A few months later, in March, the machine was introduced at CeBIT in Hanover for the European market. The Atari PC was the first IBM-compatible PC for under $500. Jack envisioned a product you could use straight out of the box, and which you could buy at Sears or Walmart, something not seen in those days. Everyone was surprised by the look of the computer. Atari managed to create a machine with specs that blew the competition away in an extremely compact and beautiful design based on the Mega ST line. This gave the whole thing a slim look compared to other big box IBM clones of the era. A normal XT-class PC usually came with an almost empty board containing 5 ISA expansion ports. For everything, an expansion card was needed. Floppy controller, video, parallel and serial port, hard disk controller and mouse controller, and plug and play was not invented yet. Each and every card had to be configured at the hardware level on the correct DMA and IRQ channels to avoid conflicts. When Atari released the specs of their new machine, people were amazed. Atari had not followed any pre-existing standard to create the motherboard, and to make it all fit in the compact case, the designers at Atari had created custom chips to integrate all functions on the main board. The PC1 was an XT-class machine and featured the Intel 8088-2. The big difference, however, was that the processor was clocked at 8 MHz compared to the standard 4.77 MHz in competing clones. You were able to switch between the speeds so you could still run older software. The machine was also upgradable with an Intel 8087 math coprocessor for applications like AutoCAD, which was an uncommon feature for budget PCs at the time. One of the biggest threats was the built-in video chip. The state-of-the-art NSI Logic EVC315-S video chip was capable of displaying EGA and CGA color modes, as well as Hercules and MDA monochrome resolutions. But what staggered people the most was the fact that this video chip had 256 kilobytes of dedicated video memory on board. Atari had really delivered, as most other PCs at the time only had 64 kilobytes of video RAM available. This meant that the main memory of 512 kilobytes was totally free to use for programs. There was an additional 4 empty sockets on the main board to expand the internal memory to a maximum of 640 kilobytes. The serial port for the modem and parallel port were directly built into the motherboard. No ISA cards were needed. The monitor output was a digital 9-pin D-sub connector. Next to it was a little dip switch box to configure the type of monitor that was hooked up to the system. The mouse port was something special. It was Atari ST and Microsoft Mouse compatible and required a special driver delivered by Atari. This way, the serial port could be used for other peripherals. The floppy port was also ST compatible, meaning you could hook up an external SF314 or SF354 to the PC. You could even daisy chain both of them. Atari announced 2 external 5 1/4 inch disk drives, the PCF554 with an external power supply and the PCF534. The latter came in the same case design as the PC1 itself and had a built-in power supply, but never made it into production. Even though the PC1 lacked ISA slots, the main board did have an expansion bus. The pins of the bus contained the original ISA signals, so it didn't take long for the first aftermarket expansion solutions to arrive. At the presentation of the PC1, an external hard drive was also announced. The PC204 was a 20 megabyte ESDI hard drive and came in a similar case as the SH204 hard drive for the ST. It was connected to the expansion bus and hooked up with a ribbon cable which went through a hole in the backside of the PC1. Third-party internal hard drives were also available, but never officially supported by Atari. In the end, the PCH204 was too expensive and did not sell well. When the PC1 was released, only one monitor was available. The 12-inch PCM124 was a multi-sync grayscale screen. Originally, the display would be phosphorus green, but it ended up being amber colored for release. Also, because the PCM124 was not a true black and white monitor, it could handle all the Atari PC resolutions as well as modes. Finally, the computer came with a high-quality keyboard, created by Cherry, loved by the community. It was an AT-style keyboard with function keys on the left and a separate numpad section. Jack Tramiel was never a fan of classic PCs. In the March 1987 issue of Popular Computing, he even stated,
"The IBM range is old-fashioned and inferior technologically to the STs. But if people want to buy our PC compatible, they can. However, we will tell them they're buying the wrong machine, and that they should be buying an ST."
By making the PC1 compatible with all ST peripherals, he tried to piggyback his other line of computers and make consumers more aware. But Jack took it even further. Since the Atari PC1 was an all-in-one solution, user-friendliness was the key. So it came not only with MS-DOS, but also with GEM 2, the graphical OS used on all STs. Sadly, GEM was not a success on the PC1 for a few reasons. First, the version of GEM that Atari delivered was only EGA compatible. If you had a CGA monitor, you were out of luck. GEM 2 was also not as feature-rich as GEM on the ST. This was because it was affected by the infamous lawsuit between its creator Digital Research and Apple. The PC1 also did not come with a hard drive, and GEM was delivered on 2 floppies, so loading the OS was slow. However, if you wanted a graphical user interface, GEM 2 was still much easier to use compared to Windows 1.0, and try using Windows on a system without a hard drive. Power without the price was the ST way, also used with the PC1. It was based on the Mega 1 case, probably as a cost-saving measure. But there was more. It turned this machine into one of the most elegant-looking solutions, yet at the time, it was also the product's downfall. Jack was sure of his vision, an easy-to-use, low-budget, all-in-one wonder machine you could buy off the shelf. But the market wasn't so sure. Atari had more plans for its PC1. The expansion slot and battery compartment on top of the machine, which would be used for real-time clock, and which ultimately remained firmly shut, is proof of this. When the PC1 was released, the press was unforgiving. While the price was amazing, the build quality was excellent, but the machine only came with one disk drive, which meant lots of disk swapping. The computer was not future-proof because of the lack of ISA slots. In 1987, the year of its release, the VGA standard arrived. Even though the PC1 had EGA on board, it could not expand to VGA. And a year later, when sound cards started to appear, PC1 owners had yet another problem. Additionally, Atari didn't even have an EGA color monitor available at the time of its release. The market clearly wasn't ready for Jack's concept. Everybody looked at it from a business perspective, while the PC1 was aimed directly at the home market. Atari did not promote the PC1 properly and left the task to the retailers themselves. It was clear something needed to be done. The PC1 had all ISA slot signals on its main board, so converting all functions to a more common style motherboard would be fairly easy. Jack needed to act quickly, and if there's one thing he was good at, it was delivering the goods in record-breaking time.